You know that feeling, right? If you're a parent, you definitely do. The one where you feel like you're being cross-examined by a tiny lawyer who, for some reason, subsists entirely on crackers and your will to live. Yeah, I've been there. It almost broke me. But what I figured out completely changed how I see my kid. And it all started on one very, very long car ride. So picture this. It's me, my 4-year-old Anya, and we're stuck in traffic. She's in the back seat, and she fires the first shot. A classic. Mama, why is the sky blue? And I'm thinking, oh, awesome, a science moment. I was so naive. So wrong. See, this wasn't just a question, it was the opening salvo of a siege. I start by explaining, light scattering and particles. She asks why light scatters. I talk about the particles. She asks why there are particles. I explain that's what air is. She asks, why? And with every single why, my answers got a little weaker, my voice got a little tighter, until finally I hit that wall, the one we all dread. Because I said so, that's why, no more questions. And the silence that followed, it was just thick with guilt. I just felt like the worst parent ever. But here's the wild thing I learned later. I wasn't alone in this, not even close. At their peak, preschoolers can ask up to 400 questions a day. 400. So that feeling of being totally and completely overwhelmed, that's not a you problem. It is a statistical, mathematical reality of raising a tiny, curious human. And that really gets to the heart of the paradox, doesn't it? Our big goal, the thing we all want, is to raise these deep, curious thinkers who question everything. But the day-to-day reality of that? It is just utter, draining exhaustion. So how are you supposed to fuel that little fire of curiosity without completely burning yourself out in the process? Well, that's when I had my big aha moment. I was looking at it all wrong. Her questions weren't random attacks designed to test my sanity. No, they were a code, a developmental blueprint that was showing me exactly how her brain was building itself, one question at a time. I had to learn to read the code. Okay, so let's break down the code. Level 1, around ages 2 or 3, it's all what's that, what's that, what's that? And it's not just about learning words, it's about creating categories. They're basically saying, okay, I've encountered a new object, help me file it away in my brain. They are literally building their mental dictionary of the entire world. And then you hit the big one, the why phase. This is the dawn of causal reasoning. Why is the sky blue isn't just a question, it's a hypothesis. It's them saying, I have observed something, and I believe there's a reason for it. Explain the mechanism. This right here, this is the birth of a scientist. And just when you think you've mastered the why, it evolves. It becomes how, as in, how does the car go? This is the next level up. They don't just want to know the cause anymore, they want the step-by-step process. That's a huge cognitive leap. It means their executive function is kicking in, and they're starting to think in sequences. But then, you get to the master class. What if? What if dogs could fly? This is where it gets mind-blowing. It means your kid can hold our current reality in their head, create an entirely new one, and then logically think through the consequences. That is some seriously sophisticated thinking. It's the root of all innovation, all creativity. And really, that's the whole point. Our kids aren't just empty hard drives that we're supposed to download facts into. With every single question they ask, they're actively constructing their own understanding of how the universe works. They're building reality, piece by piece, question by question. Okay, so understanding the why behind all her whys was a total game changer for me. But let's be real, it didn't solve the fact that I still wanted to hide in the pantry by 10 a.m. I needed a plan, a practical strategy to nurture this little thinker without completely drowning in the process. So I came up with a new playbook, a 5-step protocol that basically saved my sanity. It's about figuring out the real question they're asking, turning questions back to them, being okay with saying, I don't know, setting some boundaries around timing, and maybe the most important one, teaching them how to find their own answers. And that was the fundamental shift for me. My job wasn't to be a walking, talking Google search. My real job was to be a curiosity coach. The goal wasn't about giving answers anymore. It was about building Anya's ability to think for herself. And honestly, that changed everything. So I was armed with my new perspective and my 5-step playbook. I went back into the trenches. Back to the car rides, the dinner table, the endless bedtime questions. But this time, I was ready. So the next time Why is the Sky Blue came up, instead of launching into my usual physics lecture, I tried something totally different. I just turned it back to her. That's a great question. What do you notice about the sky? That simple little move did two things. It bought me a second to think, and more importantly, it turned her from just a listener into an active observer. I also started setting boundaries in a way that felt good. We invented this new thing called question time right after dinner. 20 minutes where she could ask me absolutely anything. So if a big question popped up while I was, trying not to burn dinner, I could say, "Wow, great question. Let's save that for question time." It validated her curiosity, but respected my own limits. And for those really deep philosophical questions, the ones about life and death and all that, I learned it's okay not to have a neat answer. I started saying things like, that's a question people have wondered about for thousands of years. I realized my role wasn't to have all the answers. It was to introduce her to complexity, to nuance, and to the beauty of questions that don't have just one right answer. And the results were, well, they were amazing. The constant, reflexive why chains started to fade away. Instead, her questions got deeper, more thoughtful. She started to see herself as a little researcher, grabbing a book to look something up. What used to be a power struggle became this partnership in discovery. Her curiosity wasn't crushed. It was channeled. It was incredible. And that's really the big takeaway from all of this. For years, I saw her constant questions as an interruption to whatever we were actually supposed to be doing, an interruption to our walk, our dinner, our drive. But I had it completely backward. The questions weren't getting in the way of the learning. The questions were the learning. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. What's that one question your kid asks all the time? You know the one that makes your eye twitch a little bit. How could you respond to it differently tomorrow? Not as an exhausted answer machine, but as a fellow explorer, just excited to see where that question leads you both.